My name is Gerry, I'm from Wild Eye, and this is episode 8 of the video series in which you ask your wildlife photography questions and I try and answer them for you. Let's get right into it.
Heidi asked on Facebook, is it better to have a high-end camera body but only one focal lens, or have a mid-range body and 3 or 4 lenses that cover the most focal lengths?
Heidi, this is a very, very good question because I think often people get lost in gear. They think, I mean, I've seen it in the past. We arrive at a destination or we're going somewhere to shoot. You open your camera bag and you've got like 3 different lenses and 2 bodies, whatever the case is, and people think, oh, you must be an amazing photographer. Doesn't work like that. Now, would I rather have a high-end body with one focal length or a medium-range body with different lenses? I think off the bat, I would go high-end body, one lens. Couple of reasons. Number one, I think when you start getting to a point in your photography where you want to grow and you want to excel, you're going to start tapping into functions on that camera that the medium body might not be able to help you with. Yeah? Low noise, high shutter speed, whatever it is, there's something that you might want to pull from that. So I would always go that way. But I'm not saying you need the very best and biggest camera to create great images. The reason as well, I would rather get one lens versus 3 lenses is the most important part in your bag, how do I say this? The place you need to spend the most money on from a photography point of view is your glass, is your lenses. The fantastic plastic little 18 to 55 mils, useless. You can get value from them, but I would rather spend money, save money, and then spend it on proper glass, 400 2.8, 300 2.8, 70 200 2.8 even, and have one lens to shoot with. 2 reasons, I guess. Having to change lenses all the time in the field is not only a pain in the ass, but I've seen people miss shots because of it. They'll be shooting on, I don't know, the 18 to 55, the animal walks further, stop, change the lens, put the new one on, shot's gone. I would rather take that decision-making process completely out of the equation, have my one lens, I know what I'm working with, and I can then shoot with that lens regardless of what I'm looking at. As in a previous episode, I mentioned that a prime lens might be a crutch, but it's a creative crutch, and if you know what you're dealing with, you are in a better position, I think, with one focal length, or one lens at least, and one camera body to shoot. If I look at where I am now, traveling on photo safaris now then to now, I'm taking less and less gear each time because I would rather have my one lens, my subject, and allow me as the photographer to do the work. So if you can, less lenses, better lenses, and a proper camera.
Jonathan asked on email, what are the signs in your own or an individual's photographic journey that you should look for that indicate that you have outgrown your kit?
John, solid question. One right back at you. If creativity came in a nice golden box, would people rush out to buy it as quickly as they would new gear? The fascination of people with new gear is scary and shocking and quite sad at the same time because you'll be creating images all the time, the new camera gets released, 1D, XS, whatever might come out, and people rush out to buy it. They spend a huge amount of cash. Put those images of your previous camera and this brand new shiny thing next to each other. Do you think the monetary value is really going to show in those images? No. You are still a photographer and you are still using your own skills and your own vision, your own creativity to create those images. So why rush out and buy it? Now, the reason I mentioned in the previous one, someone was asking about gear and this is what led you to this question. The short version, I think, is once you as a photographer once your vision as a photographer outgrows your gear and you cannot accomplish what you have in your mind's eye with your current gear, then you need to look at upgrading. Whether that is you shooting with a 7D, which is historically very bad at low light, and you start niching yourself, if you will, to more low light type photography, that camera might not be what you're looking for because the vision you have of what you want to create isn't possible with that gear. Anytime before then, I think people are wasting their money. Lenses is a slightly different ballgame because the lens you choose is going to very much define the look and the feel of your images. A 400 2.8 and a 100-400 have very different look and feels to them, and they have different applications. So lenses you can rent You can upgrade those and choose one that works for your style of photography. But from a camera point of view, don't rush out. It's a game you're never going to win. Every 12 to 18 months, the technology renews, and then you're going to have to upgrade. First, you're going to run out of money, but also, if you look back then, 3 cameras back, your images are not going to improve as much as that the manufacturers would like us to believe each camera improves. You're not going to see it. So I would rather focus on your vision, focus on the creative side of it. People are so scared in this wildlife photography industry to think of themselves as artists or creatives. It's what you do. You're creating something. You're taking a picture, processing it. It's an art, yeah? Get used to it. But you need to, your vision is what's going to drive your need to upgrade. That's it. The moment you're sitting in a sighting and the gear you have cannot do what you want it to do, and not because you don't know how to use the bloody thing, but because of you having extracted all the potential out of that camera, that's when you look at upgrading.
David asked on Facebook, as wildlife photographers, is it our duty to help conserve the wildlife that we are photographing?
David, this is a very interesting and I think topical question, because there's a lot of photographers out there, wildlife photographers, who take a picture of a rhino and then they call themselves conservation photographers. Doesn't work that way. Conservation, look, their intentions might be great and the underlying goal that they want to achieve might be to conserve the species, but by simply taking a picture of a rhino, of a leopard, of an elephant, whatever, doesn't mean it's immediately a conservation thing. Should we all be conservation-minded? Yeah, I would hope so. Because if we don't conserve the natural heritage of Africa and all the other wild places of the world, we're going to run out of stuff to photograph. And that is a scary, scary thing. So, I mean, I'm not a conservation photographer. No. I'm a wildlife photographer with a very strong passion and interest, invested interest, and history in conservation. So, does that make me a conservation photographer? No. So if you're taking pictures of animals and just saying you're a conservation photographer, please stop it, because you're not. Are you making a difference with your images? Are you writing articles to highlight the plight of certain species? Are you submitting images to conservation bodies that can use those images? Yeah, then you're starting to get to a place like that. Is it our duty to conserve? Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, not just photographers. Everybody should be conserving the natural heritage of our planet. But that's enough from me on this. I mean, this is something I can get carried away on, but I'm not going to. I'm going to ask Andrew to get in on this one, because Andrew's got a background and education in conservation, so I'm going to let him answer this for you. I'll be back after this.
David, this is a great question, and I think as photography and wildlife photography grows in popularity and more people are coming to the front, it is becoming a bit of a catchphrase to say that you are a conservation photographer. Now, I think Gerry's hit the nail on the head in terms of taking an image of a rhino and saying, you know, conservation photography, and this is an image. And an image will go to a certain extent in terms of raising awareness around something. You can say, you know, however many rhinos have been poached, hashtag stop rhino poaching, this, that, and the next thing. Here's an image of a rhino. I'm not disclosing the location because of this, that, and the next thing. So in a sense, it does raise awareness. But it is, I would not say it's conservation photography. I think that is a very different field. And there are very few people that, especially in South Africa, that are, I would say, conservation photographers. The first one that springs to mind is Peter Chadwick, and he's been doing a lot of work on threatened ecosystems and regions in South Africa, documenting the wildlife that live there. And that then gets put into place, not only just to raising awareness, but by documenting and telling people what occurs in the area. Another guy that comes to mind is Neil Aldridge of conservation photojournalism from the UK. And Neil, from a conservation background, doesn't have that much experience, but his background was in journalism and picked up a camera and then started to, you know, really fall in love with conservation. So for him, what he's doing is going out there, finding a story, following it, going a little bit deeper, not just showing an image of a rhino, but digging deeper. What is driving the fact that people are actually consuming rhino horn. We know all of these things, but it's to go out there, put it all together into one story, to give people more than just an image. You need to really understand what the problems, what the threats are, what the issues are. And I think that's what separates a conservation photographer apart from a photographer who likes to share images of wildlife and say that, you know, we need to conserve it. The other side of it is that every time we go into a protected area, we pay a conservation fee. So does photography contribute to conservation? Yes, in a sense, because it pushes tourism through these areas and it helps to, you know, provide a kind of sustainable form of land use in that area, which not only spreads awareness but actually generates income to protect these areas. And I think that that is going to become something that's going to be increasingly under pressure in the world. As population numbers grow, there's going to be more pressure on resources and protected areas. And if an area cannot be self-funding and we cannot justify the monetary value, and it sounds bizarre to put a monetary value to an animal, but if those areas can't pay for themselves to exist, then they're going to come under even greater threat. So, you know, raising awareness through putting an image up on a platform and saying that this is about conservation is great, but I wouldn't say that that forms any part of conservation photography or conservation photojournalism. It needs to be a more considerable effort to put everything together to actually tell a deeper story and not just a superficial one. What we're talking about and what most people do raises awareness. It's not conservation photojournalism.
Alison asked on Facebook, how can we as photographers experience the wild without causing harm to the natural inhabitants of the area we visit?
Alison, I love this question because it taps, and it doesn't tap into, it points out that a lot of people are doing the wrong thing when they go out into the field. Tourism and conservation, I mean, this is a discussion we always had with the ecologists and the landowners when I was in Madikwe, was you can either wear your tourism hat or you can wear your conservation hat. It's very difficult to wear both together. Tourism says, let's show people as many big five animals as we can so that they keep on coming to our lodges and spend money. Take that cap off, put your ecology or your conservation hat on. There it is. Let's protect these areas with minimal human influence, but where's the money going to come from now? Tourism feeds that and feeds conservation, and conservation creates the platform on which we can drive the tourism. Can photographers go out into the field and not cause harm? Yes, but here's the thing. It's up to every individual wildlife photographer, whether you go on your own and you crawl through the bush for 2 months and get dirty and do your own shots, you're running photo safaris with a group of people, or you join a photographic safari where you go as a guest. It is up to each individual one of us to make sure that what we are doing is not influencing your subject and the environment. Number one, and I've spoken about this before, I feel very strongly about this, that if you change your animal or your subject's behavior, you have failed as a wildlife photographer. You want to photograph them doing natural things, what they would be doing even if you were not there. You should also be leaving that place, whether Kenya, Mara, Monopool, Svalbard, wherever you're going to photograph, you need to leave there without leaving anything behind. You shouldn't have changed the environment. Yes, I know, when we put game viewers on a vehicle forward and back, it does influence the environment, but at least it's controlled up to a certain stage. As the photographer, as photographers, you, me, all of us need to make sure we don't influence our subjects and we try and leave the area as natural as possible. We need to show what's out there without getting too involved. Does that make sense? I would like to think so. So, bottom line, it's up to each one of us to not influence the areas that we visit.
Kim asked on Facebook, when do you plan on expanding to the USA and where?
Kim, I love this question for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's very well timed, but more than that, I would love to. I would love to wake up one morning and go to the airport and fly out to New York, to the Wild Eye office in New York. Watch the space. Stick with us for long enough, magic's going to happen. But why I say this is very well timed is, what are we in now? January. See, it's very busy. January, In a couple of months from now, probably April, Marlon and myself will be in the States. We're going to probably end up visiting New York, LA, and San Francisco. Lots of exciting stuff's going to take place leading up to and during that trip. What we would love to do, being out in the States, every one of you watching this from the States, we would love to meet you face to face. Marlon's very excited in the background there. Yay! So we would like to meet you. We're going to be arranging presentations, social events, meetups. We've obviously got important meetings and stuff as well. But if you're watching this, Kim, I'm seeing you in Kenya a little while from now. But we want to see you guys on your home turf, and let's meet up face to face. More info on this to follow. But if you're in the States during April, we want to meet up with you. Righty. That's it for today's episode. It is now Friday, and I'm off to Kenya next week. So for until the 18th, I'm not going to be in the office. But like I mentioned in the previous video, I'm going to try, with Penny's help, she's going to be out in Kenya with me, to do at least one of these episodes from Kenya. My ideal would be one from the Mara and one from Amboseli. We're also visiting Lake Nakuru and Lake Naivasha, but time there is a bit rushed because I have to get some photography done. Yes? That's why we go to these wonderful places. So I mentioned in the previous video as well, if you haven't been on a photo safari ever, and you would like to know what it's like to travel to Kenya, the flights, the gear to take, what clothing to take, what the weather is like, how close you get to the animals. If you have any questions on a photo safari to Kenya, I would like to answer those specific questions for you from Kenya while on a photo safari. How cool is that? Send me your questions. Now, best way to do this, on my Facebook page, my Twitter feed, and my Instagram, because I'm monitoring those. Ask your questions on there about anything about a photographic safari in Kenya. What have we seen? And I'm going to answer those for you from the field. Now, a lot of you have also been following for a while, which is awesome. Donkey, thank you very much. From next week, Tuesday, you want to be following my Instagram, my Facebook page, and my Twitter, because when we're out in the field, and these things are amazing, I just need to get the new 6 Plus because I've still got a small one. I'm going to be posting from the field content every single day. Images from the field, back of cameras, stories and updates. So apart from the great images I'm going to help my guests to get, I'm going to share my experience and also the back scenes, behind the scenes from our photo safari in Kenya on those platforms. Instagram first call. I'm loving Instagram. I've told you this. Go and follow me on Instagram and follow my journey as we go. You can also ask your questions then on those posts and I will get back to you on there. I'm going to be trying to do a daily little video update for you. Probably goes onto the Facebook page. But any questions you have, join me, even if it's only virtually, on my trip to Kenya. And then we can talk about you joining me in real life later on. Right, guys, thank you so much. This was episode 8. Number 8 is in the bag. So send me your questions, not just for Kenya, anything with wildlife photography, anything about the Wild Eye team, and we're going to keep on answering them for you. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. I will see you next time.